On this episode of Crowdfunding Nerds, we cover energy and nutrition. We unravel the mysteries of the essentials of bed making. We talk about listening to your body, and we even cover intermittent fasting. So there's a lot in here. Let's get into it.
Game begin.
Let's go.
Lightning bolt, Facebook ad, Facebook ad. That's awesome. Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I am your host, Andrew Lowen, and I'm joined as always by Sean, and not Rick this time. Instead, we're joined by somebody with a different somebody who also has a voice of an angel in similar manner to Rick. Her name is Julie Litchfield, and she is a nutrition coach with AdvoCare. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on today.
Awesome. And so topic-wise, we're going to talk about energy and nutrition. We kind of get deep into energy, nutrition, food, and other things like that because we believe that people with lots of energy make better business owners. They make better crowdfunders. They make better decisions and so much more. So I really hope you guys get a lot out of what we're about to talk about. Let's start off with just who are you and, what's your expertise? What's your experience like for those listening? And why do you make your bed every morning?
Love those questions. So I would love to say I'm an expert in nutrition, but I am always learning and growing and finding out new things and new ways of doing things. There's some things that will never, ever change in nutrition. That's the way the body works with it. But there are other things that are always growing and changing. So to say I'm an expert in that field, I don't necessarily love to say that. But I grew up in a farming family, so definitely grew up understanding food and understanding what to put in and what not to put in. Probably started on supplements when I was 5 years old. I would have to say that I hid them in my baby blanket or flushed them down the toilet for a while because I didn't know how to swallow them until my dad found them one day. I quickly found out how much supplements cost at that point, and then realized that I need to actually be taking them and not hiding them. But for the rest of my life, then I took them. And for the last 20 years, I've been in the nutritional supplement industry and also nutrition coaching as well for the last 20 years. So that is where I currently reside. And why do I make my bed every morning? Because the small things that you do in life, such as making your bed before you leave your room in the morning, are going to lead to success. It's just taking those small steps each day to do something that you're successful with before you even leave your bedroom in the morning.
That's awesome. I love the concept of doing something on purpose. Like it's like, I hate making my bed. My wife is an expert at encouraging me to make my bed. We happen to share the same bed and she wants it made. And so, I always have to help. But I get why. I mean, it's so satisfying to jump into the bed at night, but it's like you get your day started with purpose, rather than like stumbling over to coffee and drinking your second cup before your brain turns on. It's kind of a ritual, but I'm not very good at it right now because I have a 3-month-old. And so, the bed usually always has one person sleeping in it, either myself or my wife.
It's the feeling of walking back in your room and seeing things disheveled. It makes your life feel disheveled. And walking back into your room to see things that are done, you know that you've accomplished at least one thing that day, because there's some days that's the only thing we accomplish. And at least there was that. And so when you come back to bed at night, whatever time that may be, with the ages of the kids that you have, that you get to unmake the bed and get in is like, okay, I did one thing today. That was an accomplishment.
Yeah. So, Sean, do you make your bed?
I do not. I do sometimes, but no, I don't make an active decision. My mind is usually elsewhere at that point in time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's somewhat interesting. In terms of like the military, if a bomb was coming, and I think the soldiers just get up and get to work, and that's maybe my approach to life. So there's more pressing things right now. But I do agree with this idea of as keeping things tidy, and a cluttered space is a cluttered mind. And I think one way to really tackle that is to declutter. And this is something my wife is really big on, because you can't tidy clutter. So by scaling down, it means keeping on top of, or ordering a house or ordering any space a lot easier. So I know that some people in their desks, they would just have like a box that they throw all the papers in there. And if they don't access those papers in a certain amount of time, like 3 months, they just bin the box. That's probably a good practice, because just kind of keeping clutter tame is certainly helpful.
Yeah. We tend to, I do agree. Actually, maybe first principle of running a business, you can't run a business in a messy office, or rather, if your office is messy, then your business practices would be messy. And I speak from experience, because my business practices are naturally rather messy. I make messes. I'll tell people all the time, like, I make messes, and my staff are often the ones that clean them. It's like, I signed a new client, or I convinced a client to get started, and go ahead, guys, make sure that we look good, and then I'm off to the next thing. But I do find that my headspace, when my desk is clean, it's somewhat clean right now. I just am able to think easier, and I get distracted less, and I feel more relaxed. Like, my brain is able to rest a little bit more while I'm working. There's not so much input coming in. I don't know if that makes sense. Is that?
It does. But Andrew, that was a key in leadership right there. What you said when you said, I make a mess and my team comes and cleans it up. You have found people that have the strengths that you don't have.
Yeah.
The gifts, the talents, the strengths that you don't have. And that is a huge key in leading people, is admitting first where you might have those weaknesses, and finding
that's pretty much where I exclusively hire.
And
like,
finding
if I hate this, or I'm bad.
Right. Come alongside you that have those strengths and those gifts and talents that are going to only further your business and make it worthwhile.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have looked at spreadsheets for a decade, and I hate spreadsheets. I deal with them every day, but I just, it's not my favorite thing to look at a spreadsheet. I like talking to people. I like, there are a lot of things I like doing. But I think Sean loves spreadsheets, like if we could feed Sean under the door and just let him work on spreadsheets all day, I think he'd be happier.
Well, I don't know. Here's the question for you, Andrew. I've seen your workspace, and it's usually quite tidy and clean, but I've also seen your desktop workspace.
Yeah.
not exactly the same thing, which is quite similar to me, where my workspace, my physical workspace, is quite ordered and tidy. When it comes to my computer workspace, it's all over the place, but it's organized chaos. There's like a word of wisdom that says, where no oxen are, the trough is clean, but much strength comes from an ox. So sometimes if things are too clean, it can be suspicious, but sometimes things just need to be a bit dirty, because it's the nature of business. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if your desktop, last time I saw your desktop was pretty cluttered. Mine is the same, but it's kind of organized chaos. So.
Yeah, it's true. And also what I've learned with the desktop, like I have right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, it should be 3, like Chrome, windows, and each one of them, I kid you not, have between 10 and 30 tabs. And I do not need that many tabs. And actually every once in a while, like, how your computer will just restart. And it's like, hey, do you want to open up all your tabs? Sometimes I just say no and like wipe the slate clean and whatever. Other times I'll, say it again. Sorry.
How much RAM do you have?
Oh, plenty.
Must have lots of RAM. That many tabs.
Enough to have a billion tabs. I built this desktop to, future proof myself until, I become an artificial intelligence. So, but yeah, it's definitely something that I have. Each window has a purpose. Like I've got one Chrome window with a lot of my deliverance related things. I've got all the portals to the shipping companies, like for the UK, for the EU, for Australia, for, the US, and, that sort of thing. And then on another, I've got all the, like my email tabs and, Crowdfunding Nerds related stuff. And I don't know why I actually have the third one, but it just, It just happens sometimes,
Maybe that's your fun one. That is
Yeah.
just like, I'm looking up different things for whatever I want to do.
Yeah. And
That is
what
organized though, Andrew.
yeah, it's funny, but even in this, I have organization because the tabs that are to the far left, as in like the very first tabs, are all the essential ones, like the email tabs and stuff like that. And then the ones to the far right are the things that I've been doing that are very recent that matter to what I was doing an hour ago. And everything in the middle, none of that matters. It's all for, like Chrome. What it does is when you go to that page, it will then reload that page. So like right in the middle, I have 3 Amazon tabs open for, I was talking with one of our clients that does Snapships tactics, and I have several tabs open of his stuff, like right in the middle. And I'm not going to deal with those again. They're just kind of taking space, but I haven't yet cleaned that clutter. So my system is organized. As Sean said, organized chaos, I think, is a perfect explainer.
I have one of those MMO gaming mice, and I've got hotkeys that close and open tabs, so I just can hit on my mouse really quickly and just shut them all down. So that's how I do to shut them all down quickly.
Yeah, and I will say we've talked about cleaning, and the whole cleaning or make your bed thing for me came from an admiral that gave a speech at the University of Texas at Austin. His name is Admiral William McRaven, and he talked about making your bed, and it's a super duper motivational thing. We can link it in the podcast notes, but it's very motivational and encouraging and that kind of thing. I know there are others that have similar lines of thought. Make your bed, clean your room. Other people that have said things like that.
Yeah.
But there does come a point though where when you organize, when you're cleaning and other things like that, you're really just distracting yourself from doing the work that actually is profitable, that will actually make you money, that'll actually move the ball forward. And I want to talk about that a little bit because I don't know why we're on the subject of cleaning, but do you guys ever use the idea of cleaning to distract yourself from what you really need to do?
For sure. I can definitely be a procrastinator when it comes to that. Sometimes I truly believe there was a time where I was so upset with myself and I thought my procrastination was the worst weakness in the world. And I had a wonderful mentor at the time, and she came alongside me and she goes, "Have you ever thought that potentially is a strength of yours?" And I looked at her like she had lost her mind. I said, "Procrastination is a weakness." And she goes, "Not in your case." She said, "When you procrastinate, it's because you're actually, as you're doing things, you're thinking about the things that you're supposed to be doing and you're mulling it over and you're getting rid of the fluff and you're getting rid of the things that don't matter, so that when you sit down to actually do what you're supposed to do, you crank it out potentially under pressure, because I'm down to the wire at that point. But it comes out a masterpiece because you haven't included all the fluff. If you'd really been working on it for the 2 weeks that you were supposed to be working on it, you probably would have redone it 5 or 6 times in that time frame. And then it wouldn't have come out the way that you wanted it to in the end." And she hit the nail on the head, because that's how I worked all through college, all through high school, all through college. And then I did realize like that is a potential strength. Now, sometimes not so much. Sometimes I truly am just procrastinating, and by cleaning things up, or especially when you work from home and you think, "Oh, I'm just going to do this really quick. I'm just going to run in the other room and get this is needed to get done for a while." That for sure is a distraction to what needs to get done. And it's potentially because you have to walk through something hard. And you're trying to figure out a way, the most graceful way to walk through the hard thing. And sometimes you just have to put things down and walk through it.
Yeah. I actually work the same way. My brain on several different fronts, but whenever I have something that needs doing it's really something that requires creative energy. That is something, or creative thought. One of the primary things in my life right now is deliverance. We're working on an expansion, and and we have these 3 different bosses that we're making, and all 3 of them we discuss every week we have a once a week meeting, and we discussed all 3 of these bosses. I made a first version a while ago, and we talked about how to revamp and adjust them and whatnot. And I'm like, for the last like 3 days, I'm like, hey, the morning is open. I am going to do this thing, like, from the hours of 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. I'm going to get 1 or 2 or even all 3 done. And I always find a way not to do that, not to even start. And it's crazy because now it's, we're recording this on Thursday. The podcast will go live on Monday. But I'm kind of amazed that I've gone now. This is the 3rd day that I have not yet even put my hand to the plow, as it were. And I find that I've kind of also embraced that, because I know that my subconscious, so the I don't know, I don't remember where I read this, but I believe your subconscious thinks 1,000,000 times faster than your neocortex, than your conscious mind, 1,000,000 times faster. So that's why when you're memorizing something, like when you're working on memorizing something, and then you get a good night's sleep, and then you come back to it the next day, it's a whole lot easier to finish that memorization. But if you try to go from morning until night to memorize something because you have a speech that night or whatever, it doesn't take. It feels artificial and that sort of thing. And so there's a lot to be said about procrastination not actually being a useless thing, but it's you actually need to give your brain time to process the information that you've put in it. It stores, like at nighttime, you get long-term memory. That's where like your memory banks get stored, and you kind of reset your short-term memory. So you're ready to take on a new day, and you don't remember how awful the day before was. You only remember, today's a new day. I've got a new start, and all of that. And then, your long-term memory had a chance to really kind of, like process and store and whatever. It's like you defragged your hard drive at night. And, I find that I've learned to start to trust that process a lot. And actually in college was where it happened for me, because like I had, for example, like an English class where I had to write an essay. I remember our teacher made us watch The 13th Warrior. I love that movie. It is a super fun movie. She made us watch The 13th Warrior and write like a 10-page paper on it. I did like a 20-something page paper on the art of martial arts with Bruce Lee and other things like that. And I remember I wrote the entirety of those papers in about 12 hours before they were due, and the one that was 20 something with an annotated bibliography and all of that, like I had to work a little more on that one, but it was crazy the amount of delay that I until like the pressure built up enough that I had to just sit down and start working. Otherwise I wasn't going to make it on time. It was a really crazy, semester trying to, just get a good grade in English, and, I got A's on both those papers actually. And I did well in the class, and I realized that it went okay. Like I was a heavy hardcore gamer at that time. I was wrestling, and so I didn't really have much time for school. Like I went to school because my parents would be upset if I didn't, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and also gaming in World of Warcraft and wrestling because I really liked wrestling. And I learned that I actually just needed to embrace the way that my brain worked, and procrastination is kind of a part of that. And then I became a good student eventually, and I started, I decided I really wanted to finish college and that sort of thing. And I remember, I would be in a college class. I would have no notebook out, no pen, no pencil, nothing like that. If I wrote it down, the only things I would remember are what I wrote. And if I just paid attention to the class, then I would remember a lot more. And I started to embrace that procrastination. And I graduated. I mean, I didn't graduate with honors because I like chasing girls more, but my wife graduated with honors, who I met in college. So I'd say that's a big win. I got an A in finding a cute girl, marrying her, and making 7 children.
So Julie, you mentioned in the past that you grew up on a farm, and then through your experience of growing up and, this idea of nutrition, was fermentation ever part of your sort of lifestyle growing up on a farm? Did you jar anything, or did you, ferment anything? Because I think that's a lost art in modern society with the advent of, I suppose, industry and mass production. And we've sort of removed probiotics completely from our diets. And that's something I don't know if that was something part of your lifestyle.
I can answer that question. Why, if you need to run and do that, but to just correct it a little bit, my grandparents were farmers. So yes, I did grow up on the farm. We would go every weekend and be out there and we'd help and do things. But we also had a ginormous garden in our backyard as well too. And we canned a ton of stuff because in the Midwest, your garden doesn't grow in the winter. And so you canned all that food for the winter. And we had a basement that was full of canned foods. So everywhere from tomatoes to the cucumbers to the beans to literally everything, where the only thing my mom was going to the store for was typically bread, milk, eggs, a few things like that. But even the eggs we got off the farm, but we canned everything. And that was a huge process. When we moved to California, that was a huge shock for my mom. First of all, the soil in her backyard, they lived on the side of a mountain and there was a boulder in her backyard and it was like clay. And she is pretty amazing. And she quickly learned how to grow a garden in that. And I remember neighbors coming over and saying, what in the world? How did you just grow like corn in your backyard and strawberries? I have the same yard as you do. I don't understand how you're growing this. And she goes, it's called poop. You got to go get some. She's like, if you don't put the right soil in and mix it with some manure, you're not going to get the right things you need. But learned a lot from my mom with that, growing up in the farming. But she also was so strong in, when we were little, we didn't eat tons of sugar. We never got those fun things in our lunches when we'd go to school and we'd see other kids' lunches. No one ever wanted to trade with us because we had all homemade stuff in our lunch bags. But I'm so grateful for that now, looking back. When you're a little kid, you're like, man, what are those things? Fruit roll-ups? I'd like to have one in my lunch bag too someday, or whatever else there was, a Twinkie or a Ding Dong or whatever. But grateful that we actually learned early on that what you put in your body matters. And my mom used to always go back to say, do you ever see me putting diesel in our car? Our car doesn't take diesel. If I put diesel in the car, we wouldn't even make it out of the gas station. She said, you need whatever you're putting in your body. That's how your body's going to run. So if you're putting crap in your body, it's going to run like crap. So you put good stuff in your body's going to run longer. And so we learned that really at a young age. And the other big thing we learned was movement, was just getting out and moving and not sitting. We were only allotted so much time a day behind a screen. And other than that, my mom said, there's a big wide world out there. You need to get out there and walk it. Like, let's see what there is. So that was a long answer to your question about canning.
It's just something that my wife has got into recently. I know that Andrew, your wife and daughter, recently went on a sourdough course. And my wife's huge into sourdough, and she does a lot of stuff with that, and just all the health benefits that comes from fermenting and just probiotics. She's currently making what's the German thing called again? Sauerkraut. So it's just big jars. So she's like fermenting all this sauerkraut, and they occasionally you have to air them. They burp, and they can hear them pop and stuff. So anyway, she's big into that. It's just something we've got into as a family, and in terms of our nutrition. And my son is lactose intolerant, but we go to a local farmer here because we live in the country. We buy raw milk, and he's able to have that no problem because of the probiotics.
Amazing.
The bacteria kills the lactose or eats it or consumes it. So whilst when it is pasteurized, all the lactose stays, and that can cause him problems. So even though if he wants to have ice cream, he has to run to the toilet straight away, but he's able to have, cereal and porridge with raw milk. And that has been great to see. He can actually have dairy.
That's pretty fantastic.
Love how that's all coming back. My niece had a bunch of canning supplies on her registry. And I feel like I'm close to my niece, but I didn't realize she was canning. And I called her, I said, are you canning? She goes, oh yeah, all the time. I'm making pickles. I'm making this. I'm making that. I'm like, oh, I just love to see how that's coming back in. how people are growing gardens in their backyard, even in the smallest of areas. They're learning how to just maximize what they have. And it's fun to see people getting excited about it and kids getting excited. My kids love to go pick potatoes out of the ground. I mean, it's the funniest thing ever. And I just think, okay, as long as you're good with this, go ahead and do it. So it's fun to see it go through the generations, but that it's coming back so strong now.
One thing I'll say is I think there is a desire for people to return to what is real. There's so much of our experience is mediated through screens. So we've seen this in the board games behind Andrew, is that a lot of people, in terms of entertainment, the idea of sitting next to people or in front of people with physical components, moving bits on a table, that's novel now. That's people want those kind of real experiences rather than simulating something online. I think we're seeing this just with our food and different experiences. I think there's a desire for people to re-experience that which is real. I don't know if you've seen that, Apple has just released these headsets, VR headsets that people are walking around with. And that's pretty scary, just where kind of society is heading towards, where people will just perpetually be connected to devices. They'll just be wearing them on their faces. And I think there might be a pushback to that type of movement where, there might be conveniences in having, be moving your hands like a wizard and calling your friends. But I think there's another pushback to that where people are just saying, I want to get away from all this technology for a bit and be able to put down my phone and have time with friends and family.
I really pray and hope that there's a huge pushback to that. And I truly believe, like, as much as 2020 caused all this havoc, I think it also brought to light, wow, we do not get out enough. We do not do things enough. I mean, I think it really brought some families back to core of what is most important and what do we need to be doing. And it's spending that time, that quality time with each other and being in interaction, being in community with people. And people are tired of it. Thank God we had to be on Zoom so much, because I had already been on Zoom for 5 years before that. And then when we were on Zoom that much, I thought, I cannot stand this. I need to get back out into the world and in front of people. So yes, I hope there's huge pushback to that, because then talk about energy levels. That's going to just plummet energy levels at that point. And we were already fighting against that now. And yes, we have amazing supplements for energy that can do that, but there's so much more how to get energy in your body than just adding supplements. And you're talking to someone that loves supplements and has been taking them all of her life. You have to move. There has to be a certain amount of stress in your body, and stress is typically caused not like the mental stress that we get from being stressed out at work or school or things like that, but a stress on your body of moving and getting out in the world and doing things. There is stress that's put on our body when we go out and do that. All of that helps create the energy that we have in our body, and it's how we sleep and what we eat and how we move and all of that's going to bring that energy back. And when you're doing things like that with AI and with all these things that they're coming up with, it's just going to massively deplete someone's energy and deplete anything that they have that's worthwhile on a day-to-day basis. So it's scary. And like I said, I pray that there's huge pushback for that.
Yeah, there's this thing that my wrestling coach would always say. It's like, I'll just amend it for our listeners. It's like, you can't put low quality gasoline into a race car. And so if you want to perform well, on the wrestling, on the wrestling mat, then you need to fuel your body with the right things. And chili dogs aren't it. So, I remember,
Darn.
Yeah. I remember my wrestling coach, you can eat some really, really good things for your body that taste really good, that don't, it's not like salad is what wrestlers have to eat. I mean, it's kind of like the Michael Phelps diet. I would have to eat lots of carbs. So I remember before every wrestling dual meet, it's like one school against another in college. We would go to Sereno's Pizza, and every single wrestler would get a giant bowl of spaghetti and meatballs. And that's what we would eat like before we wrestled. And it was awesome. And then I remember every away trip, we were only allowed to go to, what was it? I want to say it was like Burger King. Oh, it was Carl's Jr., or I forget what it's called across the states, different different things across the states. We were only allowed to get barbecue chicken sandwiches, but we could have like 3 of them. If we got anything else, he'd be mad, like fries or whatever. He'd be mad because certain calories are kind of useless to your body. Like certain things are useless to your body, and other things will do what you need them to do for your body. And I never really got an education in like the science of nutrition, but I got a significant education in the functional side of nutrition, like what I feel like after I eat this and what it does to my weight. And, because in wrestling, you have to be very concerned about how much you weigh. You need to weigh under a certain amount to make your weight class and be able to participate in the tournament or whatever. And so I learned, certain things cause me to balloon. Actually, sourdough bread is one of the number one things that causes me to, if I want to gain 5 pounds from one day to the next, I will eat half of a sourdough bread, that's like, but it's so good, and it's so good. Allegedly good for you, but holy cow, I just balloon up like a giant, inflatable animal. So
no, so true. And so fast food has always been, what can I say? We don't do it in our house. And so when we go on, and we do a lot of road trips with our family, and I have since I was little, and then I now do road trips with my family, and we pack a cooler and I make sandwiches, and there's food in the cooler, and they all have their own snack bags. So I don't hear the entire road trip, Mom, can I have this? Mom, can I have this? No, you have a snack bag allotted to you for the day. If you finish it in an hour, sorry.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to make it last for our road trip for today.
That was like my 6 month supply of food because COVID, it was a 6 week supply. I learned.
Yes. So they'll always say at one point in the road trip, we might be gone for 2 weeks. Can we stop in the one place I will stop typically is In-N-Out, but we're in other states and we don't have it now they're coming to other states, but we're in other states and they don't have an In-N-Out. So we'll stop for them. And it's so interesting to now hear my kids at older ages, they're 18, 16, 14, and 9 now. And so now they are really in tune with listening to their body versus when they were little. Before, when they were little, they just say, my tummy hurts, or I don't feel good, or whatever. And within 30 minutes or less of stopping for fast food and eating, they all immediately say, where's the nearest bathroom? Can we pull over soon? And I don't feel so good. And man, I'm never eating that again. It was great for the 2-3 minutes they consumed it and downed it, but they immediately felt after what that is actually doing inside their body. And so as much as I'm wanting to treat them and show them, sure, Mom will splurge from time to time and let you have fast food, they're quickly learning, I don't want it. And so I'm so grateful for that they actually can feel it and know it now and know what it's coming from versus me telling them it's not the best thing for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's kind of pivot this conversation and focus it in on, what our audience is listening and may be wondering, why are we talking about all of these things? And I'd like to kind of pivot into energy, back into energy for the purposes of actually running a business effectively. We know, like you gave us some notes before we started. And one of the things I'd love to dive into is everybody's different. Everybody is different. What do you mean by that?
There are no two alike. That is the great thing. We are all uniquely created and designed. And I love that part about us. We may all need the same things as far as we all need macronutrients and micronutrients. We need our carbs, our proteins, and our fats to survive and live, and water and all these things. But every single one of us was created completely differently. We all have a unique thumbprint. There is not anybody that lived before you, that lives today, or that will live after you that will have the same thumbprint. So right there, that has got to say something, that there is no way that any two of us are alike. If we all have different thumbprints, then we're all made, our DNA is all different, right? Now we can do some of the same things to get the same results, but it's the greatest example I like to use is when someone says, oh, my friend did it, so it worked for my friend, so it's going to work for me. So I'm going to start doing and eating the same way they did, or I'm going to start exercising the same way they did. That's great, but that doesn't mean it's going to turn out the same for you. So it's coming back to learning, I have to listen to my own body. We all know, if just like your son, Sean, can't can't have dairy or can't have milk in some sense, he knows how he feels after he has it. He's learning what that feels like. It doesn't feel good. And so we all know what we can do and what we can't do, but it's stopping, it's slowing down enough to understand I need to listen to my body. It's not going to be the same as my friends or as my husbands or as my sisters or my brothers or whatever. It's going to be different. And so that's what I meant when I said every body and everybody is different, because we are all uniquely created and designed in a good way.
You know, it's really interesting. So there are 3 different major body types, and this is like, what is an endomorph, an ectomorph, and a something. What is it? The and I could get these wrong, right? But the conceptually, the endomorph is in regard to working out and that kind of thing. The endomorph is somebody that is drawn to cardio and kind of needs to do heavy lifting in order to build, like that is the most effective thing for their body. And the ectomorph is the guy that is naturally big. Like, have you ever seen somebody that's just got natural muscle and other things like that? Their frame is larger and they're, it just, they like to power lift. And I find that it's actually a lot easier for those people to power lift, and it's almost impossible for them to run a mile, they don't like running. And then there's the body type that's kind of the blend of the two that can benefit, about equally from cardio as well as, heavy lifting and that sort of thing. I find that I myself am the more balanced type. I'm kind of that mid-range build that, I can, I benefit well from cardio. I benefit well from other things, and I definitely don't like to power lift, and I definitely don't like to run. So, I feel like I'm a blend between the two. But I remember there were so many people that would try to tell me, okay, this is how you need to work out, or this is how you need to eat. And I would be like working out like a football player. Like, I don't like this. Why am I'm like lifting heavy and I'm getting really sore in my chest and other things like that because I did chest yesterday and whatever. And that didn't work for me. And then I found really through high school and then eventually college wrestling. College wrestling was where it came for me, where I figured out my body and what I did. And, in wrestling, the concept is it's just you on the mat against one other person. There's nobody else that can help you. Like, you don't have a team. You've got the team in the practice room, but it's just you on the mat. And so I would find that when I work out in the way I did in the wrestling room, I would move a relatively light weight around, like 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds. I would move that around in ways that would just be awful for muscular endurance. And then I would run up a mountain, and that would be my cardio, or do sprints and things like that. And I found that, and part of this was because I didn't want to lift heavy because I didn't want to build muscle mass and get heavier. Because again, the wrestling, the weights and whatnot. But I found that there was nobody that I ever wrestled with that had better cardio than me. And I don't know, it was just something that happened. I felt really, really comfortable with how I was doing things. And I think that, this food is the same way. I actually I think I might have talked about it on a podcast we did with Dan Whaley a little bit ago, where we talked about kind of health and, working out and other things like that. But I eat the same things every day. I try to eat the same exact breakfast every day. I try to eat the same exact lunch every day. And sometimes it's just hard to do that, because I want variety or whatever. But I find that if I can just limit my choices and say, like, instead of saying, what do I want today? It's like, I know what I'm having today and I know when I have it. And it just is like a routine for me. It's just become something that's a lot easier to manage. And it's something that when I go outside of that pattern, I start to, get messed up. I start to gain weight. I actually, my energy crashes sometimes, when I go too far outside of that pattern. And so that's what I mean. Like the functional understanding of like what works for me versus the scientific understanding of like, why does it work that way? I don't know, but it works.
You've become an expert in listening to your body. And I mean, we will lean to experts like Coach Dan when it comes to fitness and nutrition. Like, him helping us walk us through, like, this is why you want to do this type of exercise, or this is going to build this, and this is what this is going to do. Now it's going to look different in each person because we all have different bodies and different shapes. But we go to those experts to say, what am I supposed to do for this? And how, I hurt here when I do this. Tell me what this is doing. But we truly each can become our own expert for our own bodies when you're listening to it. Just like, how you feel, Andrew, after you've eaten sourdough and what that's going to do for you. Or if you go off a little bit from what you normally would do, if you decide to have a bowl of ice cream at night, how that might make you sleep, how you wake up the next morning and how you feel from that, or how you feel the next day. And so once you learn those things, then that's where we have a choice. We get to make the choice of what we're going to do and what we're going to choose to do with how we're going to eat each day. And so that's really what it's going to come down to is moderation in everything that we do in life. Moderation is most people I meet don't love the word moderation in any shape or form.
Yeah.
Not just with food or exercise, but anything in life. But it's such an important word. It is such an important word. And a synonym of moderation is breaking, because you're breaking. You have to break something to achieve the moderation. And so what do you want to break in life to achieve what you're trying to get at? And so for you've understood, even though you might be eating the same thing every single day, that at least I'm going to feel good. And this is easy for me. You've formed a habit that now has become a behavior for you enough that it makes you happy. Even though you might not be changing up what you're doing every day, it still makes you happy because you're achieving what you want to achieve at the end of the day.
Right. I've lost in the last 2 months about 10 pounds. And, I've just decided I'm getting back into shape. Like when we got pregnant, air quotes, got pregnant. I gained sympathy weight along with my wife, and we ate pizza whenever we wanted and other things like that. Like I recognized around month 6, I just like the diet goes out the window and I'm drinking soda and eating pizza and whatever. And then it's like, okay, now it's time to get back into shape, and I'm out of shape and I feel like, low energy and other things like that. And I just yearn for having a lower weight, because when I have a lower weight, I have more energy to do things. Like when my kids talk to me, I'm much less likely to be grumpy at them because I have more energy. I'm much more likely to be productive during the day because I have more energy. I'm more likely, I get more creative thought in when I have more energy, and all that. For me, it just seems like when I hit a certain weight, it just like my energy in my body doubles. Like when I get up in the morning, I get up with my eyes open and I don't need too much coffee or whatever, but it's difficult. Everybody's on their own journey. And I think that there are a lot of people listening to this that are in shape, like way better shape than us. And then there are other people that are listening that are just not in great shape. And then, everybody in between. And you have this spectrum of people, and you have people that want to do something about it and others that are happy with where they're at. And, but I think one thing we can probably universally agree on is that everybody would like a little bit more energy, a little bit more patience, and a little bit more energy, right? But not opportunities to earn patience, like the actual patience.
Yeah.
And so, not opportunities to gain more energy through hard work, diet, exercise, changing habits, and all of that. But like, what is one little thing that someone can do where they're at right now that will help them just have more energy, like tomorrow or next week or whatever?
Number one thing, typically, and every single time I coach somebody, my first question will always be, how's your water? And a lot
that's
of people
good.
say, oh, Julie, I'm holding up my water bottle right now. Oh, Julie, I drink plenty of water. I always have a water bottle with me. That's great. I'm glad you always have a water bottle with you. Do you actually know how much you drink in a day? Have you ever just made little notches during the day to know, oh, I just finished 8 ounces, or I just finished 16 ounces? Like, have you truly added up what it is? Because even though we're carrying a water bottle around, doesn't necessarily mean we're drinking it. If we're not going pee enough, or if we feel thirsty too often, then we're not drinking enough water. We need to be drinking bare bones minimum half of our body weight in ounces. So if someone weighs 200 pounds, they need to be at least be drinking 100 ounces a day. And I usually add an extra 16 to 20 ounces to that when I'm doing calculations for somebody, because if they live in dry climate, if they exercise, if they sweat during the day, you have to replace that. Our bodies are made mostly of water, and we need to be drinking that. And when we're low on water, we're going to be low on energy. We're not going to move right. We're not going to think right. Our brain's going to be foggy. We're not going to make the right choices when it comes to food, because we're going to be searching for water in food and picking the wrong things, because our body disguises things weird. Our body's pretty miraculous when it comes to that, but it does have a mind of its own. And we're going to sleep horribly. So water is the easiest thing for somebody to add back in. And a lot of people are like, I hate water. I hate it. Doesn't have a taste to it. Great. Add a little bit of pink sea salt if you want to add, like if someone likes salty stuff, or add some lemon, or add some fruit to it, or I love
or just slam it and get it over with. That's what I do.
That too. But it's again, you guys love, I mean, going back to the word moderation, it's about moderation throughout the entire day. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I finished all my water today before noon. Okay. Well, too much water in one time is also bad for you. So too much of any good thing can be bad for you. So let's spread it out throughout the day. Now, you don't want to be drinking water right before you go to bed at night, because then that's going to ruin your sleep and you're going to be up all night. So it's finding that moderation of drinking your water right when you get up in the morning. The first thing you do after you make your bed is have a full glass of water, and then keep that going throughout the day, and making sure that you're getting your bare bones minimum in, and then above that if need be. But that's the first thing I will always touch base on with people. Even people that tell me they get enough water, they'll come back to me a few days later and said, I was way below what I thought I was. Like, I carry my water around with me and I still wasn't drinking enough. And it's amazing how much better they are sleeping, the foods that they are no longer craving, just with making sure you're getting the right amount of water in.
That's really cool. I have this, I've noticed whenever I bring soda into the house that it gets consumed. Like every can of soda gets consumed. It's the strangest thing. And no matter what I do, no matter how good I want to be, like every can of Coke is just gone at a certain point. It's like, where did it go? Like it went into my body. And you know, whether it goes in a week or 2 weeks or whatever. Right. And, so I've noticed that bottled water, disposable bottled water, if I always have a case, and it's like $3, $4 at a, you know, your grocery store when you're getting groceries. For me, if we always have that bottled water, I'm always rushing everywhere. I'm a Californian at heart. Like I live in Texas, but I'm a Californian at heart. So I'm always rushing. I'm always, you know, I'm never feel like I'm on time, even if it's, you know, to jump in and just start answering emails. Like I'm always hurrying so I can get back to my computer to do the thing, you know, the next thing. And a grab and go is super useful. I don't have time to, you know, in my head at least, I don't have time to fill up a water bottle and keep track of where that thing is. Like I just need to grab something and go. And these, you know, I'm holding up like a plastic drinking bottle that's terrible for the environment, but they are useful to make sure that I'm getting water in. It's like if I'm tempted to grab a soda or whatever, I can just grab one of those instead. I take it with me and then I'm at my desk, and that's the only thing that I've got at my desk to drink. So the strange thing that happens to soda also happens to these bottles. If I bring it into the house, then they just start to disappear. And, you know, if I bring them into the office and it's the only thing to drink, then I just naturally will drink those things. I won't stop what I'm doing, get up, go to the other side of the house for a soda, or like, you know, a sweetened water or whatever, or sweet tea, or, you know what else, I guess. But I drink water, and that's been the way that I try to kind of add that in. So
that's
half
key.
your ounces of body, or half your body weight in ounces.
Half your body weight in ounces. But that's key. You found something that works for you. And that same for my sister. She loved her Diet Pepsi during the day. And it was really more so, yes, was it the flavor and the taste? Sure. But it was more the carbonation. So she switched to bubblies and LaCroix. She goes, yes, I'm spending money on this, but at least I'm getting water in. I'm getting something. And the carbonation is what's satisfying to me. And so it's finding that key element that will get you to keep drinking the water that you need to drink. Like I said, if it's putting a little bit of salt in it, putting some lemon in it, if it's whatever it takes for you to get it in, and you grabbing those, having those handy at home is what's going to do it, instead of grabbing a reusable water bottle. That's fine too. I tell other people, for your reusable water bottle, put rubber bands on it. So if you have to drink 4 of those a day, put 4 rubber bands on. Take a rubber band off every time you finish one, so that if you look over at your water bottle and it's 1:00 in the afternoon and all 4 are still on there, you need to start moving. You need to start drinking water. That means that you're not going to the bathroom either. So,
yeah, that's pretty interesting. One other thing, there are a lot of people out there that, so I used to be this way, where I would always drive to work and home. And then, I have a lot of appointments and things that I have to be out and about during the day. What I found is that it's really hard to kind of control the chaos when you're out and about, or for example, on vacation. Like the adage is, I think at least the adage is that you should expect to gain 1 pound for every day that you're on vacation. And I find that that's pretty true on my vacations, because food is my favorite. And so, one thing that I found that helps me to control chaos when I go out is I go to specific places, like specific fast food places or whatever, and order the same thing there. So for example, In-N-Out Burger, as you mentioned, I happen to have an In-N-Out Burger on our exit in Texas, where I live, and they never freeze their meat and other things like that, some good stuff there. So I go there, I get a double animal style, and I remove the onions, and I get ketchup and mustard instead of the spread. It's like this super yummy, epically fatty spread that they put on there. And that is actually not too bad. It's pretty good for you. And so I know that if I'm going to be out and about, I actually kind of plan ahead and say, like, is there an In-N-Out nearby? No. Was there, a Carl's Jr. nearby that I can get that barbecue chicken sandwich thing? And so on. So do you have any other tips for somebody that might be in a lifestyle like that? Like,
sure.
Controlled chaos.
I mean, definitely if someone can think ahead and pack a cooler for every day. Like, my husband worked construction when we first met, and construction is not the greatest job to be eating healthy on. They don't stop often. It just isn't it's not a good place for eating healthy, but he learned how to do it. He packed a cooler every single day. And he would do it the night before. So he took 15 minutes the night before, got out stuff that he could munch on all day long, because he's more of a grazer. And so he would take good food. He would take cucumbers, he would take carrots, he would take fruit. He loves fruit. And he would make his lunch every single day, because otherwise he would go to fast food, because everybody else in his construction field would stop at the fast food restaurant. Brian would get out of his cooler and eat that. Not only did it save his body, it saved us a ton of money, because he spent way more money on fast food. Now, if you don't have a choice and you're like, I can't pack a cooler during the day, I don't have an extra 15 minutes at night, and you are having to stop at fast food, that's where you need to make some choices of the places you're stopping, like what you're doing, Andrew. You're choosing to stop at In-N-Out that, again, doesn't freeze things. Everything is fresh there. If you've ever seen them make their French fries and put a potato in, it's pretty cool to watch. But then you make choices when you're there. Maybe you're going to go without the bun that day and just get the hamburger and some toppings on it. So it's making some choices that are going to help you later on, because you didn't necessarily need all that bread. You may have already had enough carbs during the day for breakfast, or you're going to have enough carbs at night for dinner. So it's just making some healthy choices when you're going to some of those places, because they don't necessarily always have the healthiest of things, but they have options, and most of them have to have options on their menu now that are going to help people eat healthier. And you can always ask a fast food restaurant when you go in, what is your healthiest option here? They will have an answer for that.
That's a great idea.
Julie, something that you've said is to listen to your body, but you think sometimes your body lies. So I'll give an example. Sometimes I might feel particularly drowsy, lazy, and just like, I'm so tired. But I know that if I get up and I go outside and play with my kids and I get some fresh air and I'm running around and doing a bit of exercise, that when I come back in, I'm going to just be rejuvenated. And then maybe off the back of that, do you ever suggest that people should do anything like intermittent fasting or some type of fasting? Because I do know that you can detox that way. And I suppose your body is craving something, but you're sort of making it, you're determining not to engage in certain activities because of the long-term benefits.
Yeah. Well, for sure, to answer the first part, when you're saying, you sometimes feel drowsy and not like do anything, but if you get up and go outside, you're rejuvenated, which is so true. When people are in that mood, a lot of people won't get up though and do what you did, Sean. They won't go outside because they are feeling tired and they don't want to get up and get out. But it's looking back at, what did I do today? What did I put in my body today? When was the last time I moved? Most likely everything that you did before, the precursor to how you were feeling, that's why you're feeling the way you are now. So it's important that we get up and we move and we go out and we do those things as well too. So now I lost my train of thought for the second part of your question. I'm like, I was so adamant about making sure to say that part of it as well. But I missed the second part of your question. What was the second part?
It was about fasting.
Yes, fasting. So intermittent fasting, I get these questions all the time. Julie, what do you think of, IF? What do you think of keto? What do you think of paleo? What do you think of all these things? I think all of those are wonderful and great. I don't coach in any of them because none of them are long-term. None of them you cannot have stability in any of those for a lifetime. The only thing that you can be stable in for a lifetime is eating healthy, is eating all the food groups and eating all day long. Now, when people do those for short times, I will fast for 3 days, or I have a lot of friends that do 10-day fasts, or that even do it for a month. If it works for your body to do that, I always say, go for it. It's good for you, but it does not work for everybody. My dad is a diabetic, could not intermittent fast ever. So for certain people, it's going to work. For other people, it's not. It's, again, trying it. But it's also about trying it in short term. So a lot of people will say, I'm going to intermittent fast for 30 days. Well, why don't you intermittent fast for 2 or 3 days first? If that works for the 2 or 3 days, then go ahead and extend it at that point. But then you're going to have to stop at some point and go back to normal eating. And that's the part where a lot of people mess up, is when they go back to normal eating, they just go back to normal eating of the massive amounts of food they were having prior to intermittent fasting, where it's a process to go back to normal eating. It takes a good 2 to 3 weeks to get back to what you're supposed to be after doing something for that, like an extended period of time of 30 days. So I always say, start small when you're doing something new to make sure that your body's going to react the way you want it to, and that you're not shocking your body into something so brand new. It will work for people. You see people lose weight or feel better or get more energy after doing it for 30 days. Then that's the problem. They want to continue that. Well, your body can't. You need to go back to what your body needs. And so that's why I say I don't coach in those things in the paleo and the keto and the intermittent fasting, because it's not long-term.
Yeah, I think we call it, we used to call it crash dieting, actually, like keto and intermittent fasting and other things like that. Atkins diet, the South Beach diet, other things like that. My wife, for a very brief time as a kid, tried the Diet Coke diet, where all she drank was Diet Coke. I think that lasted like 3-4 days, and she was like, "Okay, I'm done." Or maybe it was like 2 weeks. Anyway, it was just a terrible time, right?
I don't think I ever heard that one.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. Just as a kid, she's like, "I want to lose weight," and that's like a really common thing. Like, people want to lose weight, but it's just really hard. I'll say that probably the thing that people are least prepared for, including myself. Like, I've done this a lot, and I've, been in great shape, and I know how to get into good shape and that kind of thing. But there's something that happens after 7 children. It's happened to me at least 7 times, where I get out of shape, and then I'm like, all right, I know all the right things to do, but I don't want to do those things. And I resist knowing what I know to do, what I know is right. I resist, and I hate myself for it sometimes. And I will just need pizza and just, other things like that. And, there's this mental battle that takes place, and it's kind of overwhelming. It's really, really difficult. And, like, for example, I am currently on a plan where, my body naturally consumes about 2,600 calories a day. And I want to lose a pound of fat a week. So 7 days, And
You got
a pound of fat is 3,500
3,500
calories.
calories. You have to cut 3,500 calories out in a week to lose 1 pound a week.
So that's 500 calories a day.
Yes.
So I track with Garmin. So, and I use this app called the Lose It app, which is really useful. But so I track, and I generally try to eat 2,100 calories. And there are some days where I'm really mad and I'm at like 1,950 calories, and I'm like, but I'm hungry though. I could eat a full pizza right now. And it's quite difficult to kind of master, like you were saying, Sean, like mind over body. And what is your experience like in that arena, like helping people through the mental struggle? Because I personally, for me, when I fail, that's where I fail. And I think many people are the same. Like, we use food to maybe make ourselves feel better because, so
food can be soothing. It's many of us are emotional eaters as well too. And so, the one thing first to look at, making sure that, okay, so you normally would be at 2,600 calories. Are you including your exercise in that as well too? Because if you're burning, you could be burning more than what. So if you're hitting 2,100, but you're exercising and burning even more, you might actually be down at 1,500 or 1,600, and you do need to eat more. And so that's always something to look at as well too. But it's giving yourself a lot of grace and making sure that you do need to I love the people that are all in. I do. I generally love working with them, but it's also making sure that we're taking some simple steps to understand that it's okay to break every once in a while. It's okay to mess up every once in a while. And sometimes when people are all in, they're the ones that fall off the wagon the fastest because they don't want to mess up at all. And yet we're going to. We're human. We're not perfect. We are going to mess up. Things aren't going to look perfect. And we might only lose 0.7 pounds instead of a pound that week. But you still made a difference. Or you may not lose anything, but you didn't gain anything. So you have to see the wins in all of these things. So it's making sure that you still have that grace in yourself and that you are going to treat yourself to foods that you love. You love to eat pizza, then you're going to have pizza one night. You're just not going to have, if someone wanted pizza, beer, and ice cream, you're going to make a choice. You're not going to have all three. Or someone wants to have a treat day or a splurge day. Well, you're not going to splurge the entire day because, first of all, that's going to create havoc in your body, in your gut, in your intestines. It's not going to be good for you. So choose one meal that you're going to treat yourself to, but eat good the rest of the day and drink a ton of water to help flush your system as well too. So it's being all in the fact that I'm all in and making an investment in myself. I've been given one body, so I'm going to treat it, I'm going to be wise about it. I'm going to treat it nicely. You can't Amazon Prime your body and get a new one in 2 days. You're going to have to keep doing good stuff for it. So it comes down to grace. It really does. It comes down to know that I'm not perfect and I'm going to mess up, and that's okay because I'm going to start again tomorrow morning and I'm going to move and I'm going to drink water and I'm going to get down those simple habits. So sometimes we have to, and this is in life and work as well too, we have to go back to what was working. So sometimes we've added things too quickly or added too many habits at one time. And all of a sudden we're messing up all the time, or we're not losing the weight we need to lose, or we're not doing the things we need to do. We have to go back to what was working before. So what do we need to take away? What do we need to stop doing? What was working in our diet? What was working in our fitness? What was working in our job? Go back to that. Go back to those simple steps. Do those right again. Get those solid again. And then slowly add on the new things. Add on that next new habit. Add on the next new task in your job. But you have to go back to what was working. And then we kind of have to reverse every once in a while. So a lot of times, usually when that happens, when someone has their mindset isn't getting better and they're not improving, it's because they've added too much at one time. And it's starting to be stressful. And anytime we get under that stress, then we either give up or don't do what we're supposed to be doing.
And I really liked something you said is like, so we use food to soothe. Food is soothing. My daughter is, one of my daughters is 7 years old, and she has been working to break her habit of sucking her thumb. From the time that she was a baby, she would suck her thumb. And it was the only thing that we called her the walking siren when she was little. because she would just scream and walk around and cry, and it was horrible. But when you would give her a blanket, you would seriously throw a blanket on her, and she would start sucking her thumb, and it would just go quiet. And that was amazing. Necessary for my sanity.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like that's a really unhealthy habit to have when you're older. It can change your jaw and all of that, move your teeth and whatnot. So we're trying to get her to break this habit, and she generally is, except for like when she's sleeping or something. But she has been a little extra angry lately, and I found that she is looking for other ways to soothe, and it's really, really hard for her. She knows that she can't suck her thumb. Like we got her buy-in. Like she doesn't want to suck her thumb anymore. But she's finding it really hard to deal with the stressors of life when she can't do that. And I think that for a lot of us, food can be that is like the soothing thing. Like if you've listened to this podcast for the last 30 minutes, I love pizza so much. Pineapple, pepperoni, and jalapeno is what I'll take. And
you monster.
It's just, yeah. I don't trust anybody that doesn't put pineapple on their pizza. But yeah, it's definitely a soothing thing. Like when I get to have it, it just feels better. Everything feels better, like a fun movie or a fun show with like my half pizza. That's all I need, or maybe a fifth slice. I don't know. But I always do that every week. So we have a cheat day. We call it our cheat day. And we've just decided for our family. And one of the most challenging things is like everybody's different, but I live with my wife and she has different needs, if you will, than I do, rather things that keep her stable and sane. And for me, it's the pizza. And for her, it's totally something else. Like she likes flowers, I don't know, like a Milky Way or whatever, like, in regard to food. Right. And so we've just decided that cheat day is whatever day that week. It actually helps me hold off. It's like, oh, I really want to have that soda right now, but I'm just going to have that soda on cheat day. I can't wait only 2 days right now or from now on. I will have 10 sodas if I want. I can do anything I want on that day. And so on that day, what I do is I have a good breakfast, like same breakfast, and I plan and prepare. It's like, when is going to be like the epic meal? And what I've learned is if you have pizza for lunch, you can't also enjoy pizza for dinner. It's like too many carbs or something. Like you're not going to have sourdough bread, like an entire loaf to yourself for lunch, and then also be able to enjoy pizza later. So it's kind of like one big meal that you really, really want to enjoy. And we'll spend like $200 on Saturday just for what, the family wants for cheat day. And like, we'll go to, 7-Eleven or Quick Trip, and everybody will get like the candy that they wanted. And then we'll order food from Grubhub or whatever. And it's like the food that everybody wanted. And, that's the thing that we do. And what happens is like after the day is over, I'm able to like hold off until the next cheat day. It's like, oh, I really, really want a breakfast burrito. I'll have it next cheat day. Like that's in my head. I'm like, all right, I'm just storing that. If I don't feel like something different, if I feel like ramen by then or something, maybe, it's easier to like mentally bear that burden of trying to kind of get through it. Also other ways to soothe, like I know I'm kind of going off here on this idea behind soothing. I like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a thing that I do that helps me soothe. I like playing board games. It's a thing that I do that helps me soothe. It just like all the pressures of life kind of leave when I get to, strangle my friends against their will, and get away with it. Or, when I get to, play an epic game, like be a cute farm critter building my little city in Everdell or something. I don't know. But, it's something that I am able to soothe that way. What are other ways that you guys use to soothe? Like what helps you guys soothe?
For sure. I love walking. Like even if it's just, hey, we're going to go out and walk the dog after dinner, even if it's 15, 20 minutes, that is huge for me. And it's not like we're going out on some, we're walking fast walking as fast as possible and exercise. I've already exercised that day. This is like, we're just going to go out and walk the dog and just let any stressors from the day like melt off. Sometimes you need to exit your house, just like what Sean was saying before, like going outside in fresh air and playing with his kids and how that rejuvenates him. It's amazing how that will soothe me. Love playing games with the kids. We might just even break out cards like Gin Rummy, or we might do, play any card games or dice games. We love playing dice games too. And that's amazing. If we just all sit around the table and everyone starts laughing, laughter for me is hugely soothing. And it's probably why my husband got me to be his wife, is because he makes me laugh like if I'm with him, I will laugh all day long. So that is hugely soothing for me. But again, it's going back to the same key thing, finding out what works for you, because we all are so different. Just like Andrew, you have found out that this cheat day works for you, and you know exactly what soothes you. And it's when we're finding those wrong things, like your daughter was sucking her thumb, like that, we got to figure out something different, because that's going to create a problem with their teeth later on, right? And her thumb as well. When I used to come home from work, I have people that would say, I have to have that glass of wine when I come home from work, and I want to break that habit. The only way to break that is to break that routine. You've got to come home and do something different. Or you don't come in the same, sounds ridiculous, but you don't come in the same door of your house. You come in if you always come in the garage door, come in the front door, go straight to your room, sit down and read a book for 15 minutes. Do anything that you have to do to break the habit that you don't maybe want to do anymore. Because even though it might be soothing to you, it might not be the best habit to have to soothe you. I would come home and grab a handful of chocolate chips. And my husband always wondered why we never had chocolate chip cookies. There was always chocolate chips, but the chocolate chips went missing. And it was because that for me was soothing, but I had to break that habit. I had to do something different when I came home. I couldn't come in through the garage door anymore because that was straight into the kitchen. I had to change that habit up a little bit to form that new behavior, so I wouldn't do that anymore. So is the soothing thing good for you, or is it creating worse habits in you as well too? So it's also looking at that too.
What makes you soothe, Sean? Like if I wanted to soothe you, how would I do it?
What do I do to unwind? Is that the question? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by soothe.
Yeah. Soothe is what makes you feel better, what makes you de-stress, what makes you decompress, what makes it easier for you to deal with I don't know, a diet change or whatever, I am.
We have a lovely forest near us, so I suppose walking through that forest is quite relaxing, helps me unwind. Nice. I try to spend at least 20 minutes a day reading, and that sort of, I try to do it before bed, because it helps me just get to sleep mode and unwind, and then it's somewhat intellectually stimulating. I can take some notes and, ponder certain ideas. So I think that's probably one way is reading, and relaxing that way is probably how I would soothe. Awesome.
Well, I've been really fascinated by this conversation, and I wanted to talk about all sorts of other stuff, but we just kind of got into this this subject. I mean, the end from the beginning, what we said was that tired, or rather people with low energy, make bad business owners. You need to have energy to spend, because your business is going to take, all 24 hours you've got and then some every single day. It will consume all of that, and you have limited time. And so really it's a matter of making the most with the limited amount of time you have. Mm-hmm. And if you can pour more energy into less hours, you can get more done. And I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And so I hope you guys found this information useful, and I hope you found, you were able to pull at least one thing that just will help you in your week. But Julie, before we go, tell us, I know that you have this, I want you to talk about just this 10-day jumpstart, 24-day jumpstart thing, and how people can contact you, because I know that you can actually coach people virtually and whatnot. The location isn't really that important, but would you spend just a few minutes talking about that?
Sure. So, best way to contact me always is my phone number. So do you want me to give that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
So 619-994-7471. And my website is sparkforlife.net. So it's SPARK, the number 4, life, LIFE.net. And that will take you to what Andrew was mentioning, which is we have so many awesome supplements and wonderful products on there. But one of them is called the 24-day Jumpstart, which also includes the 10-day reset. So some people may just want to do a 10-day reset. Years ago, the 10-day reset was called a cleanse. And the word cleanse scares a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But the true cleanse is eating the right foods, eating the right proteins, the lean proteins, your fresh veggies, fresh fruits, getting enough water in. It's not restrictive in the way of you're not going to eat any food. You're going to eat 5 to 6 meals a day on both the 10-day reset and the 24-day jumpstart. And it is truly just that. So the 10-day reset is just resetting your body, kind of like when you have to restart your computer so that it runs better. We reset our body every 90 days. Sorry for the dog there. We reset our body every 90 days so that we can run better. Just like you do the oil change on your car. It's the same difference. 24-day jumpstart is a lot of times you've heard in the past, which could be a potential myth. There's, 21 days to form a habit. There are parts of that I do agree with. I believe that in 21 days or 24 days for our part, you can form a habit, but you need that habit to become a behavior. So I love the 24-day jumpstart to get you jump started in the right direction for your health. But there is a day 25 and a day 26 and a day 27. You don't just quit after 24 days. It jumpstarts you into better health to then create those habits to become behaviors. You want those habits to become behaviors so that it's just an everyday normal thing for you to do, to eat healthy and to do good for your body. So both the 10-day reset and the 24-day jumpstart are just a beginning to help you get in the right direction for creating the life that you want and putting an investment into the one body that you've been given, because you don't get another one.
And you provide personalized coaching for people, private coaching and everything. You're not sharing it with everybody on social media or something unless they want you to, I guess. But you provide private coaching, and then so if I were to start like a 24-day jumpstart program, it ends up that I just buy the stuff, whatever that costs, and have it shipped to me. But then I can do you talk to us through that, or like would it be like once a week, or how do you connect with your people
Sure.
to coach
No,
them?
that's a great question. So anyone that wants to get started with supplements, my coaching comes free with that. So that is the one nice thing. Sometimes people say, Julie, I don't want anything to do with supplements, but I want your coaching. Then there is a charge to my coaching at that point. But when someone, for example, purchases a 24-day jumpstart, we text throughout those 24 days, but we meet once a week via Zoom for 30 minutes just to go through different tips and tools that they're going through. But there is a daily text that goes out because sometimes we feel different every day. And so I want to catch things ahead of time. If someone's not doing something right, or maybe they're feeling kind of funny, or they're not getting enough water in, instead of waiting for that week to be over, I want to catch it ahead of time. So there will be a text that we do throughout those 24 days, but we do meet once a week. We meet prior to the 24 days starting. My discovery calls are free. So anytime someone just doesn't know where they want to go, they just know they want to make a change. They want to see something different. They either want to have more energy, want to lose weight, want to gain weight, just want to feel better. My discovery calls are free, where we can jump on a phone or jump on Zoom for 30 minutes and decide if I'm a right fit for them or what I have to offer is a right fit.
Very good. So for our international listeners, Julie is on Pacific Standard Time. That's GMT -8, right? So if you're, in Europe and you want to do this, like, I'm sure that would you be open to working with somebody that's...
I can nutrition coach with anybody. Unfortunately, AdvoCare only ships to Canada and the United States, but that doesn't mean I can't help them find something else.
Awesome. So then share your phone number once more.
Sure.
So the country code is 1, right? So just United States.
1-619-994-7471.
Okay. Very cool. Well, excellent. Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. It was a pleasure having you and really diving deep into this stuff.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Robot Richard, send us out.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. For more resources, articles, and to listen to past podcasts, please visit us at crowdfundingnerds.com. And if you have a crowdfunding question, we also have a page on our site where you can send a message directly to us. Please visit crowdfundingnerds.com/question. And if your question is a great question, we may include it in a future podcast. Thank you all again for listening to this week's episode, and we'll see you next week. Stay nerdy.